friends, thanks for joining me for Discoveries in Journal Making. Would you like to learn how to make this simple journal? This is beginner friendly. We're using a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. We are using blank paper, no pockets, no fanciness, just a beautiful, simple writing journal or sketch journal. Let's get started. You will need 10 pieces of paper. You want your paper to either be writing paper or sketch paper. I'm using sketch paper. You also need a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and it should be cover weight, which is 80 to 100 pounds. Mine is about 120, which is a little bit thicker, which is what I want for this cover. Before we even get started, I've got some contact paper here, and I'm going to go ahead and cover that paper with this contact paper. So all I have to do is peel and stick and cut the edges. This is not part of the tutorial on how to create this simple book, but since I'm going to do it, I'll just simply show you how I'm going to do it. So I'm peeling, obviously, the paper back from the sort of rubbery feeling of the contact paper. I do want to get this down as straight as I possibly can. So I'm setting down one edge, and I'm going to press, just moving my hand up so that we don't get any air bubbles between the paper, between the cardstock and the contact paper. I'm hoping I've done a good job. Let's have a look. Not bad. There's a little bubble. Oh, and I was able to rub that out, which is great. All right, this looks fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over so I can see the other side. I'm now cutting around the edges, and I'm going to do that to the other 3 sides. All right, my friends, our cardstock is covered on both sides and trimmed around. So now this is ready to go. You're going to need some linen waxed thread, and I'm going to choose one that I think will look good with this. We could go with this for a close match, or we could go with this for more of a punch of color. And I think we'll get a little dramatic today, and we'll use the darker one. You're going to want to use a bone folder. I did get this one. It's a little bit bigger than the one that came with my scoreboard, and it fits a little bit more comfortably in my hand. But if you, like me, have carpal tunnel, you can always use a pair of scissors that are clean on the edge, because you're going to use this for pressing paper, and you're just going to use this for pressing down all of your seams, the cover and your paper. You're going to want to use a metal ruler. I have one with cork. The cork on the back keeps it from slipping. It has some grip to it, right? And then if you don't have that, you can use another metal ruler, and you'll notice that this one slides much more easily. Look, putting the same amount of friction on both of them, and you can see this one slides. So one with cork on the back is a great idea if you're going to sort of get into this whole thing. Now I have this vintage ruler here, and this one actually has a metal edge. It's wood on the back, so I'm not thinking it's going to grip as well. Actually, it grips better than this one, not quite as good as this one. So if you have one of these around, that would work because it's got the metal edge and it does seem to grip decent. You're gonna want a pencil. You will want a cutting mat. You may or may not want some clips. You can use pretty much any kind of clip that you have around. You're going to want an awl, and I like this one because it's nice and big and it fits really nicely in the palm of my hand and does not hurt for me to grip it because it's large. Some people might use a pokey tool, but for me this doesn't. I like to be able to push through the papers, and this doesn't have quite enough like a space on it to be able to push it through. Although I do love this, and I do use this, just not for creating the signatures in my journals. You might find this one online available. Don't get this. It's too skinny. It's ridiculous. It's too small. There's just nothing to it. I don't recommend this. You're gonna want scissors. You'll also need a needle and a utility knife. Now my utility knife is pretty small, and so I have just recently ordered a new one, more of like a box cutter type, and that way I can get a better grip and we'll be able to get through more pages. Now for today, there's only 10 pages to get through, so I'll be perfectly fine with this one. I'm thinking for future journals when they are a bit bigger. But just to help me so I don't have to struggle as much, I am replacing my razor blade. And at least I'm starting with a nice sharp edge. Now let's get started. Take your 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper and you're going to fold each one in half. While I'm folding these in half, I will mention to you guys, first of all, I gotta make sure I get my folds correct here. That one was a little crooked, so that's one thing, pay attention to that. But another thing I wanted to mention to you, this is a standard size journal. We're using 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. You can make smaller journals or larger journals, but we are starting off with the absolute basics. As we go into this series, our skills will increase. I folded some of the pages singularly, but now I'm going to take the rest of the stack and I'm just going to fold it in half and square up the edges just to make sure I've got this straight and press this down. Now we're going to grab our bone folder, and since these are already separate, I'm going to go ahead and you hold it at a 45-degree angle and just put some pressure down on your paper and it will really crisp up your folds. Now again, if holding this is uncomfortable for you, you can go ahead and grab a pair of scissors. You can see there's a lot to hold on to, so I usually grab it like that and then basically do the same thing, okay? Now we're going to grab our piece of cardstock, which is going to be the cover. We're going to fold this in half just like we did the papers. Mine is a little bit more challenging because I covered it with the contact paper, but that's okay, we've got it. I'm going to try to practice using this and see if I can use it without it hurting my hand too much. So you're going to grab your bone folder and you're going to go ahead and crease. Go right down the crease and get that nice and flat. And actually, while I have this, I'm going to do this and just make sure there's no bubbles. I don't think there's any bubbles, but since we have it, why not make sure? Now we're going to take our papers and we're going to pop them inside. And we're going to make sure that everything is flush. And we can see that my cardstock was a little bit bigger than my papers. My papers came in a spiral bound sketching notebook. And I took them out and I had to cut the edge off because you know it had that fluffy edge where the spirals were. So we can see that I need to cut my book about 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like this, tap it down on the table. And I'm going to take my pencil, which is right here, and I'm going to go ahead and mark it right there. And that's where I'm going to cut it. I've got my paper cutter here, which should go through the contact paper with no problem. We're going to check it again and make sure we've got it the way we want it. All right, top and bottom look great. Now you can see there's some paper sticking out of the edge. Before we move on to the next phase, I'm going to mark with my pencil the outer edge here of the paper. Now I'm going to grab my ruler, and actually I need to mark it at the top and the bottom so that my ruler, I'm going to make sure it's snug in there real good so that I put my ruler in the exact place. As a matter of fact, I'll just go all the way down, and that way there won't be any question. Now when you do this, it's really good to just stand up so that you can get a little pressure on your paper. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to grab my razor so I'm able to put some pressure down on my ruler, and I'm going to take my first cut. I'm putting some pressure, but it's not a ton of pressure on the razor because I'm going to do this several times. Take your time. This is, you know, this is not a race, so you don't need to try to hurry through this part. We're almost there. Oops. I think too, once I get my box cutter and I can hold it, I should be able to put even more pressure down on it and get through the papers a little more quickly. But again, no big deal. We're just doing it till we get all the way through, and I think we've got it, my friends. And that's why you want this mat. I'm going to be making some handmade paper soon, so I'm going to keep this. I'm going to put this in a pile and use this for my handmade paper. All right, we're going to take our sketch papers and slide them into our cover. And look, everything, this is a perfect edge. I wish you could see it in person. It's beautiful. It's like you bought it at the store. It's absolute perfection. So I'm super happy with this right now. Now what we're gonna do, first before we sew it, well, I guess it doesn't matter. I was gonna say, which side do we want to be the front? But honestly, you could flip it either way, it doesn't matter. So now we are ready to stitch. Now, since this is our first video in this series, well, it's our second. The first one was going over supplies. This is our second video in the series. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I usually take shortcuts when I do this for myself, but I'm going to show you the exact step-by-step so this can be easy for you to learn. Now, I wanted to mention to you the 3-hole pamphlet stitch is perfect for 20 pages or less. We definitely have less, we only have 10. If you have a signature with more than that, you're going to want to do the 5-hole pamphlet stitch, and that will come later in the series. So the first thing that we're going to do is open this book to this very center, which is right here. Now you're going to grab your ruler and you're going to line it up with the left edge of the book and at this line. So always use this 0 line. So if something shifts, you know, so easy to come back to that. If you have perfect 8.5 by 11 sheets, this is where you're going to mark. Make your first mark at 1 inch. So you would put it here. You're going to do your second mark at 4.5 inches, and then your third mark at 7.5 inches. Since my paper is a little bit shorter, I'm going to adjust accordingly. So I'm still going to come in an inch to 1 inch, and then I'm going to come in here to just above 7, because I don't have an 8.5 inch, right? My paper's just a little bit shorter than that. And then I'm going to come in here at the center at 4. Then everything should be even. Now this is the time, if you want to use clips, you can. You don't have to use clips, but if you want to, you can. And I typically, if I'm going to use them, I will use just one. So I'll go ahead and clip this here. Now some people use 2, but I find that when you start moving the papers around, it sort of buckles the paper. It's kind of strange and interesting, but if I have just one, it seems to work out okay for me. I can always take it off if I need to. All right, so now another good reason to use a cutting mat is because now you're going to take your awl and you're going to push through your papers, and you can push through to your cutting mat and you won't be hurting your desk. Did you see the awl push through right there? There it is. Okay, super easy. Now we're just going to take it and do it to the next one. We'll see it come through, and there it is. And the next one. And there we go. Okay? Now you can measure your wax thread to 2 times your book, and you won't have any extra for like dangles, or you can do 3 times and you'll have extra if you want to put dangles on the end. Now we're going to grab our needle and we are going to go ahead and thread the needle. It's a pretty good size needle, and it has a pretty good size eye, so it's very easy to thread it. Alright, now we're going to call these holes sewing stations. This is going to be sewing station 1, this will be sewing station 2, and this will be sewing station 3. Alright, now the first thing we're going to do is grab our needle And we're going to sew through station number 2. And we're going to pull the thread. If my thread was 2 lengths, I would have to pull it till there was just a few inches sticking out. But I left a little bit of extra. So I'll have a little bit hanging down here. I may end up cutting it all off later. We'll decide then. Now we're going to sew from the outside to the inside, and we're going into station 1. And now we're going to pull till it's tight. Now we're going to go ahead and sew through from inside to outside station number 3. And we're going to pull that till it's tight. Now we're going to go from the outside to the inside, back through station number 2. Now we have 2 ends here, and we want one end to be on this side of the center thread and one to be on this side. Now we're going to make sure that both sides are pulled taut, not super crazy. You don't need to tear anything, but you definitely want them to be tight. And what I like to do is flip this over and just check it. And if there's too much wiggle room here, we're going to pull it just a little bit tighter. Okay, now I'm going to check that. Okay, that should be good. And now we're simply going to tie an overhand knot. And I like to double knot them, and so I go the opposite direction with my threads. And that'll keep it nice and secure. I have decided in this notebook I am not going to add dangles, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these threads. And friends, that is it. It's as simple as that. You have a beautiful notebook here, and now if you wanted to, you could decorate the cover, you could decorate the inside, you know, whatever you want. But this is just a nice, simple sketchbook or writer's journal, and it's ready to go. Next week, we're going to do another simple journal, but we're going to go ahead and do the 5-hole pamphlet stitch. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you soon.